So let's go back to talking about craft versus art for a second, and
Okay.
let's say craft versus performance. So to me, if I am really prepared, I feel like then I can turn off my left brain except for accessing, let's say, the script words
Yeah.
and just let myself fly.
I again, beautiful. I don't know if I've ever been able to do that. I don't know if I've ever been able to do that, which I know that is a not a failing on my part because I just
Clearly
spit.
not.
Did I spit? Blah, blah, blah.
So I wanted to read you a quote. This woman, Jackie Apodaca, she's a professor at Southern Oregon University, and this is a quote that I found that she wrote a couple of days ago, and just get your reaction. She says the timeless function of the actor is to take on communal pain and provide catharsis for every person in the audience. Actors are essential to the psychic health of our world. How does that hit you?
To me, it feels almost precisely a good sort of a theme. Like if I were writing a book, that's the blurb on the back. It feels almost precisely with what I have found is the reason I have kept doing this job and what I am doing. I would go further. I would add on to it, not only that, but to use any platform we get, if we get anyone on our side, or if we engender empathy in a way that somebody else can see themselves through your eyes, or somebody else can see someone else's perspective through your performance. I think this job is also, if you find this kind of fulfillment through this job, I think you can add to that. Our job is to take whatever platform that we've created through that kind of empathy and try and create the change in the world that we're trying to create, either in our films, in our TV shows, on our stages. I think that's perfect, and that is almost perfectly encapsulates what I do and why I still do it.
So you think that's a thing that we can do even in the most commercial vehicles that we're working in, or are there some limits that we want to put on ourselves for that?
I don't know. That's a really specific question to me, but I take it seriously and have thought of it often because I have said before, honestly, to anybody who will ask, that I consider everything that I do a form of activism because in general, I wear my culture, I wear who I am on my sleeve. And anytime any, black or brown or anybody who feels underrepresented or like they don't have any sort of anyone fighting for their cause or they don't see themselves, I think you see me, see yourself in me, and know that I am fighting for you in every way that I can. And it's difficult, it's difficult to say, hey, you remember me in that like 2 lines of Vampire Diaries? See yourself in me. But I will say, in the same way, I'm very specific in what I audition for, so I'm very intentional. But, if I were to audition for, a QT commercial, the intent would still be the same. It would be, see yourself in me. And if it were a play, the only difference is I make sure I make it my purpose. Every time after I've done a show, even if I'm feeling sick or I don't want to have been there that night, I always go out and I immediately start speaking Spanish. I just start speaking Spanish and randomly finding reasons to talk about my island or to talk about immigration, because I just immediately, even if, because I'm just rambling now, but even if I pass as white to people, like culturally or racially, however I may come off just visually without any context to people. I always want to create my own context so that everything I do becomes intentional. There's almost nothing that I do in my life, from what I eat for breakfast to what I listen to before I go to bed, that is not very specific and intentional and thought through. So to answer your question, I think yes, the most commercial, most potentially not deep thing that you can do can always say something to someone. And it should always be your best. It should always be the greatest thing you've ever done.
Carlos, he's back.
Get out of here now.
Mom, go back inside.
This is our house. You guys are vultures.
We paid for this house.
Yeah. In a foreclosure sale.
No, no!
Sorry!
That brings to mind something else that always fascinates me too, personally, in my work, both in theater and in film, how different those two media are. And the response of an audience in live theater is part of the performance, genuinely. There's energy, there are waves that hit you, and there's reactions that cause you to react in certain ways. In film, the audience is 3 or 4 times removed from us, and we don't have a direct influence on them, and yet we do. And I often try to understand for myself, what is it I'm getting on set that's the same thing that I get on stage?
Yeah, I'm trying to find that too. I haven't found it yet. I don't know how. There are parts of the specific mechanics of being on a set that I still don't understand. Like, I can't tell you how many things I will book that it's like a big, juicy, meaty role, multiple scenes, and then when it comes out, it's just the side of my face. And I know that part of it, a lot of it is obviously we have no control of it, and sometimes the writing goes in a different direction or anything. So many things happen. But I am not so, about myself that I don't also understand that a lot of it is potentially that I don't quite understand the mechanics of it yet. Mm-hmm. Quite literally, if the camera is here, that I should potentially maybe do this, as opposed to actually talk to my scene partner. Yeah. There are still, and sometimes if you're just a day player, the director sure isn't helping you find that out, find what you can reach through the audience and understand, or so if you understand it more than me, I'd love to take notes, but I have not found it.
Yeah, it is a thing for me to try to understand. Well, you earlier were talking about bringing your drive for a particular let's say social activism. Well, in the short time that I've known you and we've interacted, I can see that you are the message. And I think that's what you're saying, this is my mindset, so when I approach a role, this is how I'm approaching it. It's, I am the message, please see me. And I guess we all need to do that in order to be good at our craft. We have to expose who we are, right? Mm-hmm. So if you choose a specific portion of that, then that works pretty well. That's
I think
cool.
so, yeah. I hope so. This is his special toy. Make sure he doesn't lose it. Goodbye, Aiden Braden. God forgive me, that poor girl.
So I think there's a separation between the craft of acting and what some people call the art of acting. I'm not so sure that acting is in itself an art. I kind of see myself as a craftsman, and occasionally I make art.
Okay,
but
I
it
see
sort of
that.
happens to me when I stay out of it. Do you have any experience like that in your career?
Well, until you explained it that way, at first I was going to be like, oh, I don't know that difference. But potentially, to an extent, I think if I'm understanding your definition correctly, craft is sort of the ABCs of it. You know, can I cry on cue? Can I get to something in myself that will make somebody who is watching my performance feel what I'm expecting they feel? But the art of it is, I don't know, can you explain what, if you've created art? What?
Sure. Well, there have been moments when I've been applying my craft in something, and when I finish a scene, I feel like I wasn't even there. It's over.
Okay.
I wasn't even there. And those moments, usually when I watch them, I'm very, very pleased with, because it's so real and genuine. And I think, okay, so I used my craft to allow that moment of, and I'm not patting myself on the back, but that moment of brilliance that occurred in spite of me, almost. But then I have to say, well, if I hadn't honed my craft, I probably couldn't have been that relaxed in the moment, and maybe that wouldn't have come out.
Yes. I see what you're saying. I do think I define it differently then, because to me, and film and TV and theater and other forms of the work are so different to me in that way. Because for me, to watch yourself and have been pleased with that performance, or to feel like, oh man, I don't even remember what I did, I think is beautiful. It is admittedly something I don't attain often. I'm very in my own head about almost everything that I do. And so it's very A to B, B to C. This is how I access whatever it is I need to access to get to this. So that's wonderful. I don't experience that often. To me, the art of it happens when, and again, it's more immediate in theater, because you're having an almost conversation with another entity, you know, and you can hear their side of it. You can hear their part of the conversation. And to me, the art of it occurs in a very specific example. I was doing a reading at the Alliance Theater yesterday. And it was a little intimate crowd, I think maybe 30, 50 people tops. And we just had, you know, music stands in front of us. There was no blocking. We weren't really doing anything besides reading the script, but investing in the script and investing in the characters and investing in the life of this world. And there was one moment where I played this, like, you know, the plain sister who's kind of put upon, who has a big revelation at the end and leaves this family. But until she leaves the family, she had been the linchpin of the family. She's the caregiver. She's also sort of the workhorse. She's the one that gets, you know, the lion's share of the abuse by the family, basically, because they ignore her. They assume she will do all the work. So, you know, we've
Cinderella.
spent, sort of, yeah, but for like a Latinx family. And there was one moment where I'm sitting there and I'm talking to the young lady who's supposed to be my younger sister, and she reveals that she's pregnant, and the audience already knows that at this point. And she says a line. She says, you know, I can't wait till I have this baby so I can get back out on the town. And my character says, you know, sister, babies need a lot of care. You won't be out on the town for a while. And she says, that's why I have you. And immediately, the whole audience, like, goes, oh! And I was like, in that moment, it wasn't so much that it didn't matter what I did, but it was more, in this moment, we had a shared experience. We had a conversation, and you took part in it, and you did exactly what I was hoping would happen. You saw yourselves in me. You saw yourselves in this woman playing my sister. You saw yourselves. You weren't Latinx. You weren't part of a Latinx family, but you saw yourselves in this Latinx family, and you realized how much this art is universal, how it can speak to everyone in that audience. That, to me, is when what we do becomes art. It transcends the paper, and it transcends, you know, I bought tickets, entertain me. It becomes this conversation where hopefully, even if we're not all made better at the end of it, we all see things through it, and we go home and we think on it and we talk about it.
Papa, why did you leave me? I just walk around all the time now with nowhere to go. Why didn't you stop me from going out all by myself?
What a perfect and normal day. This was fun. See ya. so much more real than life. Oscar Wilde. I'm Tom Tone. This has been Screen Test.